Here we go. Side hustle, side hustlers, tuning in here to watch Mr. Airbnb. So I'm Robert Stone on with our co-host Quentin on the Side Hustle. Welcome to the show, Braydon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys having me on, fellow Canadians.
Yeah, you're, I thought you were down south with all the beach shirts and the button-down shirts and the suntan and you got the glow going, but you're actually in Western Canada right now.
I am, yes. I am originally from Alberta, but I love to spend some time in Mexico, and we were just down in Mexico. So, try to keep the vibe here while it's cold in the winter. And so thinking about going back.
Los Cabos.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So Quentin, how did you meet Braydon? How did you guys connect? How did he end up on the show?
It's funny because I live downtown Vancouver, and I saw his car cruise by Robson with like his MrAirbnb brand there. And I'm like, oh, check that out. Get on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, this looks legit. And then following his stuff for a little bit, and then reached out. I can't remember it's kind of like with the launch of the podcast, Rob. We were kind of looking to feature Canadian business owners and entrepreneurs. And I was like, hey, let's kind of learn more about what he's got going on. And it sounds like he's got some great launches for some webinars coming up and helping people get the Airbnb market, which is a massive one. And yeah, we have, some similar friends and been in the internet marketing world for quite a while. So I was like, okay, let's jump on a call and see where things go. And here we are. So that's
we jumped on that first call. Didn't realize how big things were, Braydon, but I'm always envious. We've done over 150 webinars. We're doing the podcast now. We're going to convert some of the old ones, but every time somebody comes on that has a global business like you do, and with your partner, another Braydon, how coincidental, and B&B. So cool. Yeah. But I'm envious because our business, what we do, we're contained by the Canadian borders. Securities license, insurance licenses, all those things. I wish we could go globally. I'm on all these Instagram food channels I get all the food feeds, all the recipes, and thought about giving it up and starting a food channel. And then I tell this to clients and they're like, no, don't quit what you're doing, dude. So yeah, the same. So let's backtrack a little bit. How did you get into the Airbnb? And you're fairly young. I mean, you're under 30.
Yeah.
At the time of the podcast here, the recording, but when did you get into it? How did you get into the Airbnb market and how did you start?
Yeah, it's honestly not something I think I thought I was going to be doing. I thought it was a side hustle. Like most things, people start doing something and it just happens. But to make it simple, I mean, I was in university, I was in college, went to 2 universities, 1 college, and went that route. Don't regret it. A lot of people say, well, I'm a dropout. It's like, no, I just stopped going because I found more passion, worked for myself. And I've been like that since I was a kid, from shoveling snow as a Canadian for $5 and even selling little Pokemon cards as a kid, or doing whatever I could to make a buck, right? And so the idea of Airbnb was kind of the first thing that I would say took off in terms of a business that I could establish globally. But it started with my own property. I bought a property in Calgary. That's where I'm originally from, in 2017. And at the time I was 21, 22, I guess. And it was Calgary Stampede of 2017. I was like, I think I want to go travel. And my best friend said, I don't know how it happened. We're going to Vegas. Then we're going to go off to Mexico right after Vegas. It's going to be a fun trip, right? Like, how do I make money while I'm away? And so I kept seeing all these ads. And this is when the whole internet space started to blow up with everybody, selling a course, it felt like. And that's where it started. And I was like, oh, I'll start a social media marketing agency. And I remember sitting in a coffee shop and seeing a Bitcoin ATM. And like, I'm going to buy this Bitcoin thing. And so I bought some Bitcoin, and that was in June of 2017. It was like $2,900 or something. I don't remember. Forgot I even had it. Blew up in 2017 in December. Lost that because of fake things on the internet not being what they are. So in short, I bought my first place, 1-bedroom condo, downtown Calgary. Thought, hey, I can make money. Stampede's popping, in other words. It was $300-$400 a night. I made something in that range. And I was booked, and I was like, damn, that just paid for my trip basically. And I wonder if I could keep traveling and use the place when I'm in Calgary and Airbnb it when I'm not. So that's exactly what I did. And I ended up making, I think it was over $50,000 in that first year for my 1-bedroom condo, which would have rented for $18,000, $1,500 a month. So I tripled it. I cleaned it when I could because I wanted to save the extra $50 to $100. And then I thought, hey, I don't think I can buy another property. I put all my money in this one and I'm furnishing it and I'm traveling. How do I find a navigation around this? And so I don't remember the exact time, but it was some time between 2017 and the end of the year. And I thought, hey, I wonder if I go on Rent Faster or Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace. And I call these homeowners and I find something close to my place. And I didn't know anything about real estate other than I Airbnb. I was a super host and I kept, my place in good shape. So showing that I would jump off the bridge first, other homeowners would trust me too. And with their property, showing I did it with mine. So Airbnb had a $1 million policy. So I thought, hey, I'm going to rent these places. So I'd call them, hey, I'm just looking to rent your place. Would love to meet up in person to discuss it. Never pitched them over the phone, and ended up basically landing. I think it was like my first little call, and lady owned it. She said, I'm an entrepreneur myself. And I said, I will take care of the place. It wasn't furnished, no parking stall, paid $16.50, I think, a month. It was in a new tower in Calgary near the Stampede grounds as well. It was actually in the Guardian Tower specifically in downtown Calgary. And I did the thing. I was making money. And I was trying to clean like 2 at once at one point. And then I started getting friends to start cleaning. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Now I'm going back to Vegas. I'm going to go to Vegas again. Did that. And long story short, learned the hard way that Airbnb wasn't allowed in that building. Got a call from the owner saying, you're getting fined basically. I think it was like $200 per offense. They caught you. And I didn't know that you had to read the bylaws. So I didn't know what a lease addendum was. I didn't know what a master lease was.
What's the lease agreement? What are taxes? What is a license? All these things.
Well, there was no short-term rental license when I started, right?
Yeah, it's crazy how things pop up when you get into business.
And it's funny you asked that, because I'm not going to go too far into this story, but when I started like really pushing this, I wanted to build an omnipresence in Calgary. And so I figured out this loophole where I could do what's called rental arbitrage, right? I could use other people's properties, rent them with their permission, and put them on Airbnb. But I didn't know the term for it. So learn the hard way, learn my lesson. I could teach other people how to do this, but I was like, I don't have to rent or even buy. I wonder if I could just co-host or market the properties and then just take like 20, 30%. So I started doing that. I'm like, I'm going to teach people how to do this, right? I didn't want to be a classic, like I just course creator. Like, no, I own the property. I've done arbitrage. I've done co-hosting. I've even listed hotels on Airbnb. So that's where it started to cycle in. I wonder if I could put a whole building on Airbnb and market the days that they're not booked on Expedia and TripAdvisor and all these other platforms. And I would fill those voids with Airbnb bookings, and the calendar would show it's available for those days. And Airbnb found the customer. I was the middleman, and I would take my cut.
We were just on another podcast recording there with Nee Norte. He's a major side hustler. And he said something about OPP. I was trying to get on other people's podcasts.
Oh, okay. I was going to say other people's properties. I say that.
Yeah. And then Naughty by Nature jumps up on the screen and he's playing the Naughty by Nature song, and down with OPP.
Yeah.
So I asked Grace, who does the editing for us, to put a little sound clip in when that comes up. So we'll do the same thing here. Little That's Naughty cool. by Nature.
People
So
use OPM too, other people's money. That's a term.
yeah, but
Yes.
I don't think Naughty by Nature did that one.
No.
We'll have to do some lip syncing.
Yeah.
So that brings you, to where the idea, where the light bulb went off, kind of like what went off in Quentin's head when he, was over in Asia and talked about that with Quentin.
Yeah.
You
Well,
get this idea for a business. Go ahead, Q.
I was actually going to say what you're talking about was exactly what I was doing as well. So I was in Korea and I was having a lot of time to travel, and then I would actually rent out my unit there, fully furnished, because I had a place right on the beach, on like the main beach in Busan, South Korea.
Mhm.
So that would like pay for my trip wherever I would go to Bali, Japan, whatever. So I would basically get traveling funded through my
Yeah.
Airbnb. And the first time I did it, I'll tell you, because there's like a big, kind of like in Vancouver, um, uh, like the fireworks that they have in English Bay.
Mhm.
They have something similar there. And I rented out my place for one night in Busan. It was like $500 for one night. And I now live right here. I'll give you a little glimpse. This
Yeah.
is English Bay. The fireworks are right in front of here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's all these little things that you can do. And then what you did was even just scale it out into a massive business. So and helping a lot of people do it. So I'm actually a testimonial that this stuff actually works. I've done it
Yeah.
myself. Yeah.
That's cool. I had no idea. I mean, what year was that?
So I was doing Airbnb. Well, actually, what I did, I have a condo in Vancouver that I was doing it a little bit in as well. But then, as you know, things got pretty tight with that. So my building doesn't allow short term. And it's got to be at least 6 months for a tenant to be in there now. But
Yep.
I was doing that in Asia in like maybe 2017. I started, I'd say 16, 17.
Mhm.
And then a lot of the Korean government started cracking down on that too. But if you can find a great building that allows it, it's the perfect way. Even people that have 2 bedroom places live in 1 bedroom, Airbnb the second bedroom, right? That's something that's kind of common, or a basement
That's
suite.
that's the
Did-
live rent free hack. Yeah.
Didn't I
Yeah,
see something on Craigslist about some guy renting out the other half of his bed?
Probably in Toronto. I think that's what it was.
I did see something like that. We'll have to dig that up and get it in the links. So before we jump into the next phase there, Braid, what's the main website and what's the main link for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, couple ways, but I'm on Instagram. I have the Mr. Airbnb handle, so that's just literally Mr. Airbnb, no spaces, periods, whatever else. We have our company Host Launch, which is our newest company, so hostlaunch.co. No, we don't have the .com because someone else has that before we register, so it's .co, but hostlaunch.co. And that'll tell you exactly what we are. Think of wanting to start an Airbnb business in a box without buying, renting, furnishing, none of that stuff. Well, furnishing sometimes, but for the most part, no. So essentially you can help other people run theirs and make a percentage. So I hate to say we're not McDonald's because that's a franchise model. We're a license model. We give you everything you need, and you can virtually do this anywhere. And so you were talking about the beginning of the podcast. Yeah, this allows you to make money. I could run Airbnbs. I'm actually helping a guy right now. He's like, hey, I have some units in South Korea. I've never even been there. How do I do this? So you can organize everything remotely, right? So just consulting with people.
So Quentin's good dating himself there going back a couple of years, but I'm going to let you guys know 2005, a good friend of mine, I'll just refer to him as Scuba Guy. He
Okay.
was traveling, lifelong buddy, known him since kindergarten. We're in our late 50s now. So I've known him 55 plus years. And he's traveled the world scuba diving. Major resorts, been the head instructor. He's one of the lead instructors at PADI International, the world's leading scuba diving organization.
Mhm.
And we came up with this idea in 2005 to arbitrage boats, yachts, because he got, invited out in a lot of private yachts. But the same thing, we thought of all these destinations, like for Mardi Gras and for Canada Day and Vancouver for,
Yeah.
the fireworks. So if the boat travels around the world, you could rent out those rooms on the boat for thousands of dollars. And
I mean, yeah, the whole world's an arbitrage, it feels like. Being a middleman is how you make the most money now and provide a huge service.
yeah, unless you're born into money.
And speaking about that too, you were saying that a lot of kind of potential people you could help are like realtors, right? So if there's a realtors watching or listening, they can kind of learn more about what you're doing for potentially their clients as well, right?
Yeah, realtors are leaving too much money on the table. I know BC is imposing new regulations, but there's going to be some areas with think it's 10,000 people or less, as well as ski resort towns, and it has to be your principal if it's not in those two things as an exemption. But yeah, like you don't have to Airbnb where you live. And that's the cool part is as a realtor, like I have friends that have moved from Canada and are hybrid between Canada and Mexico. They're selling homes and Airbnbs. The craziest part is that you can double dip the whole deal. Not only do you have the buyer, you could find the seller too, make double commission or vice versa. You also can manage those Airbnbs, and it's going to be based like some areas, property management, Airbnb co-hosting. There's a fine line between that because you're not signing a lease with Airbnb. That Airbnb guest is coming through the Airbnb platform. Of course, I can't give legal or financial advice, but I'll tell you this from my own experience and opinion of hearing what others say, especially across the globe, is if I'm just marketing and helping a homeowner and I'm helping them with their pricing, their communication, and delegating cleaners, I'm not signing a lease on behalf of that homeowner. And I don't know if this is, I forgot where I read this, but there was a court case in Edmonton, I believe, and this guy's building was trying to fine him. And I think he won the court case in such that like they had deemed that the Airbnb guest was a licensed guest to that person. It wasn't actually a lease. So therefore it wasn't a sublease. And people think it's subleasing. You're not subleasing. There's no lease. So there's anyways, where I'm going with this is realtors can expand their wheelhouse. Instead of being a general physician, why not become a neurosurgeon and get that extra pay grade and that experience by coming in and knowing how to find Airbnbs for your clients and having that experience so you can find them that, sell them it, and then make sure it's handed off and you can run the thing for them or find somebody and make a cut so you can actually manage that deal. If the property brings in 50 grand a year and you're bringing in 20% of that, let's say that's $10,000. So over the next 5 years, you made $50,000 in recurring management commissions, excluding cleaning fees and all the other things, plus your commission. And they're going to want to buy from you again if you make them money. So it's a recurring revenue model.
So hostlaunch.co and reach out to Mr. Airbnb on Instagram. We'll have all that in the links here around the podcast somewhere. You know, if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be below. Instagram, it'll be below. Any other social media channel, just expand the screen and click the link. Get a hold of Braydon. So yeah, if you're a realtor, mortgage broker, somebody in the real estate business, developer, real estate owner, multi-properties, etc.
Yeah,
reach out to Braydon.
It definitely makes sense crunching the numbers, right? Talking about the fact that you're in the real estate market, are there any tips that you can kind of share with people of how they can kind of look at different areas, neighborhoods? What would kind of be a criteria? I'm sure you probably have that in your program, but what would they look at as far as like the checklist, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. And I want to say something super, and I appreciate all the plugging me in. That's so cool of you guys. I appreciate it. And this is non-scripted, so anybody listening,
just bounce you around like a piñata,
Yeah. There's a lot of course creators out there, right? Like when I started teaching, I taught because I found an issue and I had to fail first to teach it, right? Yeah. So I had to make that mistake. And so I thought other people could do this. I remember teaching and it was just like, so I remember making that first little bit of progress with somebody and they got their first master lease. It was cool. And then it kept growing. And there's a lot of course creators out there. And I don't really like the idea of just being known or like being a course guy, because the whole point of Host Launch was also a lead generation service. We're bringing the customers to those people that are coming on board. So if you go buy a McDonald's, they're not saying, hey, we're going to make sure customers will walk in the front door. Their brand's already strong enough. Customers will walk in the front door. But with Host Launch, we're able to scrub those leads coming through us through a trusted brand and pass them off to a licensed operator. So we're doing more justice than just saying, here's an education model, because everybody and their dog has a course these days. And so, whatever you want to call it, a consultancy service or whatever. But yeah, it's I believe in the education portion, but you should obviously have done the thing. And there's so much of that in university and like growing up as a kid, all these teachers teach things, especially in university, they've never done. And so it's not as respectable in my opinion. But anyways, what was your question? That was where my head went just now.
No, I love that too. And, you took us a little bit behind the scenes yesterday to kind of like the back end of your stuff. And myself being in the marketing game for quite a while, I can tell how really, dialed in and optimized everything is for students to kind of get the most value and support with everything your team's doing there.
Yeah, before you go ahead there, guys, I just want to backtrack on what Braydon was saying about teachers not ever doing what they did, teaching things they've never done. It reminded me of a scene in the movie Cocktails with Tom Cruise, and it's a fairly old movie, dating myself again, but he had a scene in there where he was in with his professor trying to learn business, and he told his professor to go pound salt. You've never done it before. So he left school and went out and started a nightclub with his partner. I got to pull that scene up, and we'll put it in the link below, that little clip from Cocktails.
Yeah, yeah, that's a classic. No, what I was just asking there is when people are going out to kind of source and look at locations and buildings, what are some keys that they should look for and maybe avoid is choosing like a potential Airbnb unit setup?
Totally. And I'm by far the biggest real estate expert as a whole. But when it comes to Airbnb, I've done a lot of that and I've spent some time. So I don't want to pretend like I'm smartest with the BRRRR strategies and flipping and doing all that, because I'm not.
Right.
I'd rather just send somebody that knows what they're doing in that space. But when it comes to Airbnb, it's a very specific area that obviously people do it because they want flexibility to use vacation rentals if they want to use them. And it gives them the ability to pay something down or even off, having other people pay for it. Now, biggest rules in real estate, obviously investing, location, 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 or you want to make 1% of the value of the home in monthly recurring rents, right? So if the home's $1 million, you make $10,000 a month. Excellent. Airbnb can provide those things, but it's not like when I started. When I started, it was like barely anyone is doing Airbnb, it felt like, and that was 2017. So they've been around for a while.
Right.
And Calgary, there was a little article in Calgary Herald. This kid's driving around and he thinks he knows all these Airbnb loopholes and all this stuff. The Hotel Association implemented the rules right after that. So then the 4% Alberta tax levy came in and the licensing. So when people are thinking, I'm going to make money with Airbnb, they think I'm going to go buy a 1 or 2 bedroom condo in the middle of an A city, Dallas, Austin, Vancouver downtown. Yeah, those things can work. But why would I go spend $1 million in Cole Harbor on a 2-bedroom condo that might make me 70,000
$2 million.
2 million, whatever it is? You tell him from Calgary, right? Originally. And so you're going to spend this much. Like, why not go and if you don't have to mortgage, you could even go down south and buy a place in Mexico for 300 grand. That's oceanfront, some of these places. And you could syndicate with some friends, or you could not have a mortgage. And the nice part about managing those type of properties and marketing, co-hosting, is the homeowner doesn't have to hit a certain monthly mortgage bill. So when you're taking over these properties in North America with these crazy interest rates at 6-7%, well, homeowners that bought 5 years ago are now relying on the person to make so much more money, that because there's so many more Airbnbs coming in, plus interest rates are coming in, you see this big X, and that's people leaving the market because they don't know how to professionally run these things.
And now the government, with all the legislation and loopholes and hurdles you got to jump through. And I always thought with these rules coming in, they should grandfather in,
right,
people that have already been in the
set up.
industry.
Well,
I
also
think they are.
there's all these people that buy them specifically to Airbnb, and then boom, now that's not allowed. Now the numbers don't work, and now they're underwater. Or they're not, it's not profitable. So,
and you think those are going to be affordable housing and fix the housing crisis? I think Airbnb commented back to the province of British Columbia saying, I think it's half of 1% of the housing is actually Airbnbs. And the people, it was the Hotel Association. Nothing wrong with hotels. There's a place for hotels, have their own place, and they're always going to have a place, in my opinion. Because when you're traveling solo, are you going to go get a big Airbnb? Most people, in my opinion, aren't. They're using it so they can hang out with friends, and they want those unique amenities. Hotels will always have prime real estate.
I'm on a stopover right now in Calgary in a hotel room for 2 days because they don't have direct flights to Florida from Vancouver.
Exactly.
So I had a business meeting here, met a friend, and the rest is history. Airbnb has a place. I just saw a reel about the World Cup coming to Canada in 2020.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
And there was an interview on, and I wish I would have grabbed the link. I didn't. It was just a couple of days ago, but there was a guy on talking about 800,000 people coming through Vancouver in a 3-week period. Where are they going to stay?
Where are they going to stay? Yeah.
Yeah, and then the government's going to be backtracking. Oh, we'll relieve all these rules for a couple of weeks and then put them back on you after the World Cup leaves. That's what always happens. I think all these industries start up, the government thinks, oh, wow, there's a great place to make money.
Yeah.
We'll impose a tax like liquor,
Totally.
alcohol, cigarettes, anything, marijuana, not just drugs, but then property, real estate. It never ends with the government. So before we jump into your course, I want to hear more about the course, because you started talking about it there when we chatted the other day, and I've looked at it a bit on the website. A couple books, maybe for side hustlers, people starting out, maybe a couple books that you could relay. And we always put them in the links, everybody that's listening in, or if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be below here.
Yeah. Let me go back to Quentin's last question. I think you asked it, Quentin. What do you look for in an Airbnb? You want inner city returns with outer city properties. You want amenities that Airbnb or hotels don't really have. And the average Airbnb, a 1-2 bedroom, replicates a hotel room too closely now. So in my opinion, not as worth it unless it's in a building with incredible amenities, it's in a fantastic location, or if it's a tiny home and has that unique experience. That's different. So you want the experience. I would recommend being able to sleep more people, because the SEO search, you're going to show up for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, maybe, depending on how many. You want a hot tub. Hot tubs, I find, help incredibly well by a certain variance. I don't know the exact percentage, but I've seen them full in. I actually had a friend, he put a hot tub in his in December and made all that back in December. $8,000 hot tub, which isn't that expensive.
I'm staying at this hotel. I'm staying at this hotel because they had a hot tub. The other one didn't.
Exactly, right? And a gym and things like that. So you want those amenities, and people will book because of them, because those amenities people are filtering out. Of course, Superhost, and now they've introduced guest favorites. But what's big right now is the people that just go and buy a 1-2 bedroom and they're in downtown Vancouver and they're stuck now with an investment property nobody wants to buy because the returns don't make sense unless they're moving into it and they can afford it. They're going to be stuck with a property running at negative cash flow. And so they're going to have to drop the prices come May 1st. And they're trying to squeeze every dollar they can out right now. And if they run illegally, they're going to be fined massive. It's pushing the money out of the province. And I think they're going to go over to Alberta, or they could be going down south with their money next. It's just the other options. And so with that said, I think if you're trying to figure out how do I just get into the market, maybe you can't afford a super expensive property, do it with friends or look in a different market. You don't have to do it in your own backyard. Look at B cities, because B cities can be less prone to regulations. So that's something to think about to answer your question.
That's awesome, man. No, that's some really good feedback there, because as everyone knows, it's crazy, because if you just cross the border from Canada to the US, I don't know if you guys saw that thing, that the pricing difference, like just across the border, it's like a $2.1 million condo or a house in Canada. Across the border is like $450,000 or something like that. Like the same, it's crazy up here. So I think
all you have to do is Google Vancouver's most expensive condo, and one just listed for 42 million in Cole Harbour. That's why I was saying a million. I know you're not up to speed on the numbers there in Cole Harbour, but it's crazy now. Very easy to do a Google search, but you're exactly right, Quentin. You go outside, or you go into an inner city or a suburb, like you said, Braydon, and where to look, where to go. So realtors don't have their finger on the pulse with Airbnb. They're just trying to sell their property. But I think it's a great contact for realtors.
Well, I think realtors should definitely reach out to you. Also, too, people that are in the Airbnb business. Rob and I were talking with you as well about like even some accounting services or mortgage protection, right? Insurance. That's where we can kind of come in and give some insight on all that. Also, a lot of real. Oh, sorry, did I cut you off there?
No, I'm just agreeing. Okay. I don't know if my little microphone is picking up a little.
Gotcha. Yeah. No worries. I wanted to let you say something there, but yeah, and there's also, with the interest rate so high, if people are looking at doing alternative financing, Rob's one of the pioneers of something called like the infinite banking strategy too. So there's all these different ways to fund deals outside of traditional lenders as well. So yeah,
I think that's where all our paths cross is, all these, we were talking, Braydon, about all the services that spin off of Airbnb.
Yeah.
You're a prime example of that. All these, you're talking about management, talking about cleaning, talking about arbitraging, and then your course. Before we get into the course, so a couple of books, we always ask our guests, maybe 1 or 2 books that you've read that have really inspired you. You got some golden nuggets from.
Yeah, it's funny because I do have a bookshelf behind me, and I know before we were talking, we were just going back and forth. I was a book reader as a kid. I was reading the Harry Potter series in grade 3, even though I didn't understand half of it. Lord of the Rings was next, so I was obviously into that. As I grew older, I think our attention span started to deplete, but I love YouTube and something called being an autodidact, somebody who's a self-taught learner. I think YouTube University teaches most of us more things than school itself in a lot of times, just in life in general. And so my daily thing, and I love marketing. And so like I was fanboying over like the whole marketing thing yesterday when we were talking. Like I love doing that. Like 3 hours on that, watching YouTube. Like I don't mind sitting there grinding because I enjoy it. I'm not going to put time into it otherwise. I have read some books to answer your question. Obviously, everybody's going to say, like most people say, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the 4-Hour Work Week, and all these things. Brett
Think and
Wilson
Grow
actually wrote a.
Rich.
What's that?
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich, right? So I've read those things. The Financial Quadrant as well. A lot of people don't talk about that one by Robert Kiyosaki. So I think, including myself, this is something I'm learning still, is building out teams and understanding how to delegate better, because it's you spend so much time as this person that's self-employed instead of being a business owner. And even cleaning my first Airbnb, I realized it's impossible to get past 3. You can't clean 3 of them in 4 hours if there's all check-ins. So Financial Quadrant was one of my favorite ones. I read this one years ago, and I might be saying it wrong. I think it's Still Making Mistakes. You're familiar with Brett Wilson, the Dragon's Den?
Yeah.
So he was talking about that and the importance of, and easier said than done when you're focused, but building a business, but not making sure that, you're still spending time. He talks about like raising his kids and like they're knocking on his office door and like he's not spending enough time with them. And so he has all this money. I think he's a billionaire or whatever, something like that. He's got a lot of money. And so it's not going to run out, and hopefully. and the idea is that books can teach you so much, but I feel like in the age of like you look at Moore's law and how fast things are advancing now, like there's so much information, it's confusing. And I feel like taking a book allows you to just stabilize your attention span. I should read more, but I do this audio video thing. And so I would say those are 2 books, The Financial Quadrant, not the just regular Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I really like that one. And I liked the Still Making Mistakes. But in terms of watching YouTube videos, that's where I do spend most of my time. And I don't want to lie about like being an avid reader and reading 52 books a year like the average CEO. I just don't. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, great books, great authors too. Ironically, I pitched on Dragon's Den in 2012 and got a deal with Jim Treleving for Mr. Taxes. Yeah, the deal ended up falling through. It never aired, but there's a little bit of history behind that. So fast forward to today, you guys have put together a course, and it's available. There's financing available. The course goes in depth into the different topics. So here's your chance to let the listeners know. So if you're a realtor, it might be interested, somebody doing Airbnb, mortgage broker, somebody in the real estate industry, I believe could really benefit by taking this course.
Yeah. And I want to just note too, I know I said this before, like it's actually like there's e-learning to it, but it's actually more of a like done with you. Like we're going to go and actually, we don't just bring it online. Like we have, like, obviously a lot of people will build their community and watch my videos and stuff, but it's almost
a partnership. It's almost a partnership.
A step further. Yeah. So it's their business. They can do whatever they want with it. We license our system. So my partner in Host Launch, Host Launch wasn't created overnight. It was created through years of variations of how I was able to teach people how to do this, how I made my own mistakes, and how to even like take one deal and have that pay for the whole thing. And so how could I create this insane value, up my prices, and be able to get the right customer come in the door where it's a no-brainer offer? And so Alex Hormozi's blown up online. I've obviously read his 100 million offers, 100 million leads, haven't read it, but have the book. But I watched
100 million biceps. Yeah.
Yeah. 100 million guns. So where I'm going with this is it's not actually like you're getting a course, you're watching videos. It's a very handheld private experience in terms of, do you want to fly private or fly Spirit? And nothing wrong with Spirit, but that's if you want to go read that free ebook that you could learn on YouTube. And so that's fine.
Interactive.
We're actually finding the homeowners that want their properties ran on Airbnb for the customer. So when they come in, how it works is we've got it calculated over 3 to 5 years. If you just had one deal, which there's no way you should just have one, absolutely not. But one deal, then based on $50,000 to $70,000 a year at 20% is what they would take on that deal. We take nothing other than on their fees that they charge. They can make cleaning fees, interior design, so on and so forth. they could literally pay for that whole licensing fee that we charge. And there's 3 tiers to it. So we're not just selling a course, we're actually selling a done with you service, a licensing service to skyrocket people. So in the first 6 months, they get a handheld training. So they're going through the partner that I'm talking about, the other Braydon B&B. He was a student of mine and he had 0 properties. They're at about 100 properties now, 90 to 100. They float in between there. He owns 20% of his portfolio with some of the guys. And they're doing about I think they're projected to do over 5 million roughly this year in revenue, right? So he's built this business almost to an 8-figure level in that trajectory. And not many people in the world have done that as an Airbnb host. I said, what are you doing with all this time? You've spent every waking minute, it feels like, for the last 4 years just learning this. And you have a credible business brand. I've spent time building a personal brand because I love to talk and network. And why don't we collaborate these 2 things? I think you're an incredible operator and I love to get in front of people. So if I could bring the best of both worlds, the leads that are coming through the business brand and have those just passed off to people that can operate them, they don't have to buy them, they don't have to rent them, and they make a ROI on reservation 1. So if it's $1,000, they'll make $200. They have $10,000. So, his highest month, and we showed it on video. We're about to show it on our webinar on February 15th is our webinar at 7 p.m. So 9 p.m. EST. It's our first live one. He made over $730,000 in bookings just for the 1 month on Airbnb. And so if he took 20% on that, it'd be about $150,000 in commission. And so it's cool because he's building equity in these homes too. He had 0 and he just kept grinding. So we're going, here you go. Here's the whole business. The system's at a 7-figure level. We have discounts with some of these $100 million software companies where we plug them in. We give them everything, business in a box. So there's my rant. There's my Dragon's Den pitch. But it's a done with you solution. And if you can sell more Airbnbs to your clients as a realtor, you can make commission. Just like 2 deals, 3 deals, you're going to have your money back. So
that's wild, man. That's wild. And I'm going to start using that. Do you want to fly private or Spirit? What kind of person are you? That's a good.
I love that one.
I just made that up right now, but yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Private or porter? It's porter.
I was going to say, it's true. Like what's more risky? Trying to mess around for a couple of years, do it all yourself, make the mistakes, probably lose money on deals that didn't really work out because you're not working with a professional like you and your team, or treat this like a real business, or like getting a master's degree and learning these, skills. You get to write it off as a business startup expense anyway. Rob's the guy to help you write that off right there for the tax side of things.
100%.
And
that's a whole component.
And yeah, no, it's great, man. And people can go ahead and get registered for that for next week. And yeah, I think that's a good place to,
Yeah, without giving away the evergreen experience, we'll get that link out for you on our next email blast, Braydon.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I was looking up something with your partner there, reminded me of a story. Again, dating myself. I just had to look it up here on the other screen. Victor Kiam, Kiam, owned the New England Patriots, but he was on commercials years ago. Remington shavers. Here's him shaving with a Remington shaver when electric shavers first came out. He goes, I love this concept so much, I bought the company. That was the commercial.
That's cool.
Yeah, so, Braydon liked it so much, he got involved and you guys partnered. I mean, what a great partnership. I always use the analogy with, what is it, Bill Gates, and who was his partner? Nobody knows the other guy always. It's always the side partner. And then Steve Jobs.
Naveen Jain. I don't know how Naveen Jain was. I watched him speak.
No, but it was, when Microsoft was founded, there's always one person who's great at sales, one person who's great at programming, but nobody ever knows who the other guy is. And I think with Apple, it was Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. And, the same thing. And people are going to be saying that about Mr. Airbnb. Host launch, it was which Braydon was it?
That's okay. Honestly, I've done a lot of like being in front of the camera and stuff, and I enjoy it.
Really?
And sometimes
you'd never know by this one, right?
Yeah. Sometimes though, it's like it'd be cool to have, and I've never had that in a business where it's like I'm not that guy. But at the end of the day, I would love for the clients in the business itself to be the testimonials and the adversaries of the company. So I think
advocates.
Advocate. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, advocate. Yeah, I choked on a dictionary this morning. Don't worry. I don't usually come up with them that fast. Quentin can tell you.
I would love for them to be.
Rob chokes on a lot of dictionaries in the morning. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, host launches. I've done different variations of this business, and I think like taxes and what you guys do, the accounting portion of Airbnb alone is a nightmare for some of these management companies and arbitrage people, because different platforms, different taxes, different tax codes, different short-term rental taxes like BC's MRDT, Alberta's the Alberta levy, like go down to Houston, it's totally different. So yeah, there's definitely a need for that. And Airbnb hosts don't really have the direction. It's like you could just list it. It's like learning how to drive without a driver's license. And I always wondered why they don't license the operator, they license the property, you know? It's like, why don't you license both then?
Yeah. Royalties is a big thing now. I see all these reels on Instagram about how to get royalties. You know, if you're like Michael Jordan makes more money in his retirement than he did playing basketball, etc. So you hit the nail on the head. So quickly, a lot of affiliate marketers online here watching these, listening in, you know, not just affiliate marketing, network marketing, agency owners, etc. So what's your go-to? You were talking to us about a tech stack and how you've really slimmed it down and narrowed it down, putting this new program together. Let's do a little reveal for the listeners, for guys starting out, so they can, you know, piggyback. Not giving away your secret sauce, but
I don't care.
The tech stack.
Go ahead. You can use the tech stack if you want. I love, like, I spend hours just before I'll even choose a SaaS, and I just have done this over the last 2 weeks for this webinar. You can obviously set up a webinar a million different ways, but how do I automate my time and leverage AI? And I think that's the next frontier. Of course, VAs are nice and all those things. But my current tech stack, and I was going to open our Monday board because I have everything written there, but I don't even need to open it because I know it. So right now we're using ClickFunnels 2.0 as our funnel builder. I know Go High Level is a huge one as well. Everybody loves the plaques we were talking about, so that kind of pushed me to ClickFunnels. 2.0 is cool, but their affiliate program isn't like rolled out essentially. So that's kind of a pain in the butt, in my opinion. So what we're doing is ClickFunnels 2.0, Calendly to book calls, Webinar Jam. I was looking at Demio as well, because Demio for webinar software actually has an AI engagement rate where it'll see where people dropped off, and you can hit them with different emails depending on where they dropped off. But instead of using that, Webinar Jam is kind of
like you only watch the intro, mofo. Here's the link. Pick the video back up again.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, essentially Webinar Jam, and then I'm using something called Plus This, where if they hit a certain part in the video, it'll leave a tag for them, so they get hit with certain emails if they leave early. Also using, what else are we using right now? I should know off the top of my head.
Sorry, did you miss calendar booking? So how are they booking on for calls, or are you booking calls?
Calendly.
Okay.
So using Calendly, and then what else am I using right now? Hold on, I should know right away. Obviously,
Zoom.
like
Zoom.
What's that?
Zoom for our call.
We only use Zoom if we're doing like the prospecting or like an application call. For payments, we're using Stripe, PayPal, which is fine. We just integrate that into Payments AI through ClickFunnels. We are using Monday for our back end. And then there's this new thing called Gather, where we do team meetings sometimes, and it's like a virtual Sims world. So instead of a boring, not to say Zoom meeting, but Zoom meeting, you can walk up to the person and their screen's already on. So it's like you're in a virtual office together.
Cool.
Yeah, and then Active Campaign for emails, and Click Send for SMS. And that's our tech stack currently.
Awesome. So I know we're getting up on the end of the time here. Awesome having you on. Any final notes, Quentin?
I mean, it's crazy to kind of looking back when I was testing out Airbnb when I was traveling for renting out my place and booking it. And it's so cool to see how it's scaled for people like you that's kind of really jumped into it, and your buddy that's got all these massive, just results from it, right? So I think people should definitely educate themselves about it, especially in a real estate environment we're in, creative ways to kind of help out with funding different deals and making things make more sense and make more money. So wish you the best for your event coming up next week, and we'll see everyone on it.
I appreciate it.
We'll give you the final word, one last plug here, and then we'll say goodbye to the side hustlers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, it's this goes so many ways, like the whole investment side and getting funding, doing your taxes, setting up the right structures is a huge component. So once you got wealth, how are you going to keep it?
Awesome. Yeah. Check the links. We're on the podcast here, or if you're watching on the video, and we'll see you on the next Side Hustle podcast.
Thanks,